Thank you very much for listening to this week's talk on the Sedra, the portion of Chayei Sarah that, please God, we will read this coming Shabbat. And we dedicate this learning with prayers for the safe and speedy return of all of the hostages in Gaza and the safe and successful mission of the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, Tzahal, and all of the people and all of Yisrael. And as we navigate these challenging times, we find in this week's Sedra bookends at the beginning, at the end, the lessons and the role models of Avraham and Sarah in the full circle of life, in the passing of Sarah, which opens the Sedra, which is called Chayei Sarah, because when she passes, she continues in the spiritual and continuity sense to be vibrant and to still be referred to as alive, as is the case with all tzaddikim. And we have a similar expression used towards the end of the Sedra when Avraham passes away at the age of 175, and his life is expressed in similar terms. And we'll look more closely at the exact words that are used and gain the special encouragement and the direction that we are so in need of always, but especially now. And I think it's no accident that we are all children of Avraham Avinu and Sarah imeinu, people who were born into the Jewish faith, and people who chose to join the Jewish faith. They are referred to as Ben Avraham for a male and Bas Sarah for a female. And so I think that we certainly have the credentials here for our first mother and our first father, that we have their DNA, we have their commitment to the ideals that they embody, and we carry this mission forward. And we see in the beginning of the Sedra, which is chapter 23, verse 1, the Vayiyu Chayei Sarah Mea Shana Ve'esrim Shana Ve'sheva Shanim. Sarah's lifetime was 100 years and 20 years and 7 years. Shnei Chayei Sarah, the years of the life of Sarah. And knowing that there is no superfluous word or letter in the Torah, there seem to be, on the face of it, many superfluous words in this verse. And I'm just focusing on the concept of Shnei Chayei Sarah, the phrase at the end, the years of the life of Sarah, which certainly seem to be stating what has already been said before. Rashi comments on this, Kulan Shavin Latova, they were all equal for goodness. And if we can just flash back a moment to Sarah's life and think about the challenges that she had to face during her life. And we have the story of her infertility for all of her natural potentially reproductive years. She is struggling with infertility. She is given as somebody who goes into the harem of the king of Egypt, of the Pharaoh of Egypt, and the king of the Philistines, when Avraham requests that she says that she is his sister, so that they won't kill him, to get him out of the way, so they can just take her, as a warped morality that continues, unfortunately, in many different shapes and forms throughout human history. And we've got this life full of challenges, and then as she takes Hagar so that Avraham Avinu will be able to have children, she takes a handmaiden into her house, and all of the struggles that she has to face as she does that, even though she is doing it with a full heart, it is still at personal cost and suffering to her. And so when we think about that life, we can say, gosh, what is good that is being referred to? Clearly, this was not a plain sailing life. But as Rabbi Sachs very eloquently describes in his book called I Believe, that when you have a why in your life, then you will find a how. And the why in Sarah's life, Sarah imeinu's life, was her mission as the mother of the Jewish people, was her mission to bring the truth of the one creator who continues to create, and the moral code that flows from the knowledge and the internalization that we are accountable, that there we have standards that we need to live up to from the ancient times through to forever. And so, because Sarah Imeinu has that mission, then as she navigates the challenges of her life, of which there were many and serious challenges, she is able to still feel that her life is blessed, her life is good, without minimizing any of the challenges. And we see similar phrases used towards the end of the Sedra when the passing of Avraham is described. And that is chapter 25, verse verses 7 and 8. Ve'ele yemei shnei chayei Avraham. And these are the days of the years of the life of Avraham, asher chai ma'as shana v'shivim shana v'chamesh shanim, who lived for 100 years, 70 years, and 5 years. Vayikva, and he expired. Vayomas Avraham b'seva tova, and Avraham died at good old ripe old age, Zokain, experienced with the wisdom of life, Vesovea, and satisfied, content, by Yosef el Amov, and he was gathered to his people. And I think again we can look at Avraham's life and say, gosh, this was a life that was full of challenges. He was told 7 times before Sarah dies that he is going to inherit the land of Israel, and Hashem promises him this, and yet at the beginning of the Seder of Chayei Sarah, he has to drive a very hard bargain to buy the burial plot for Sarah imeinu. And you might think, well, where is the promise if this is going to be his land? Why does he have to go through, at the moment of his bereavement, this very torturous process, what must have been? And then we see that he's again waiting for the child that he was promised from Hashem until advanced old age, and the struggles that he undertakes, the rift between himself and his nephew Lot, and how he goes to battle against gets involved in the battle of the 4 kings and the 5 kings in order to save his nephew. All of these are very serious challenges, yet Avraham Avinu has a why in his life. He has a mission, and so he finds the how. He finds the source of strength to enable him to overcome these challenges and not be deflected from his mission, and really feel that he is following Hashem's path, he is following Hashem's directions. And we mentioned at the beginning of Lech Lecha, to the land that I will show you, that this is vague, because we often don't know what is our direction, what plans are we making, how can we know what to do? But that is not our job to worry about that. Yes, we make our plans, and we have our basic ideas of what we would like to do, even though the Pasuk in Mishlei says, Rabos machshavos belev ish, there are many thoughts in the heart of man, but atzas Hashem hisokum. But the counsel of Hashem supersedes, rises above our plans, and that is the plan that we follow. And Avraham Avinu and Sarah Imeinu are the epitome of this kind of attitude, and we can see this happening in our time now as we face this challenge. And I heard a talk by Rabbi Doron Perez, and I really feel that this way of looking at life was something that he employed himself. He is the head of World Mizrahi, and 2 of his sons went down to help when they realized on Simchat Torah Shabbat, that now coming up to 5 weeks ago, we've just passed the 1 month anniversary, and they realized that something very serious was happening, and they literally they didn't have their official weapons. One is a serving soldier in the IDF, the other was a reservist, and they took whatever they could, and they went into the line of fire. Mila Hashem Elai, literally following the call. And one of his sons was wounded. This was the son, Jonathan, I believe his name is, and he was due to get married shortly after Simchat Torah, I think 8 days after. And the other son is missing in action, believed hostage in Gaza. And Rabbi Peres describes what he what he felt at his son Yonatan's wedding. This wedding went ahead, and how it was possible, how he managed to at that point go ahead with the wedding, with the simcha of the wedding. Yes, there was obviously nobody was pretending. We could call it an elephant in the room, but they still had this simcha. And he said, how did he do it? He says, for that moment, he turned all his focus onto the son who was getting married. And there was one point under the chuppah where the rabbi gave a blessing for the son who is missing in action. And he says at that point, when he had to think about his son, which he's thinking about and praying for, and we are all praying for his speedy, safe release and return. But at that point, that was at the moment that he couldn't handle these two things at the same time. So this bravery, the way he is sharing his story, it's a video on YouTube, and this is something that is really, I believe, showing in action the attitude that we see from the bookend of Avraham Avinu's life and Sarah imeinu's life and Avraham Avinu's life that we see in this week's Sedra of Chayei Sarah. And I think that there's also a pasuk that comes just after the description of the death of Avraham Avinu. That's chapter 25, verse 9. Vayikbru osa Yitzchak v'Yishmael banov. And Yitzchak and Yishmael, his sons, buried him el Ma'oras HaMachpelah, el Sedei Ephron ben Sohar Hachiti, asher al Pnei Mamre. And his sons, Yitzchak and Yishmael, buried him in the cave of Machpelah on the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, that is facing Mamre. And Rashi comments on the words Yitzchak and Yishmael. Mikan she'asa Yishmael teshuva. From here we learn that Yishmael did teshuva, v'holich es Yitzchak lefanov, and Yitzchak went before him. V'hi seva tova shenemar ba'Avraham. And this is what is referred to as seva tova, good old age, in the previous verse that we read, in the previous verses. And this is what is referred to as seva tova for Avraham, that contentment of old age, able to rest his head and know that his sons, that Yishmael had done teshuvah. And the Torah is a continuum. The Torah is past, present, and future. It records past events, so giving us encouragement, chizuk, strength for the present tense, and it's a prophecy for the future. And even in these dark times, we can take the direction from the words of the Torah, that this is a possibility, that the sons of Avraham, we believe, Be'ezrat Hashem, as the Torah records, that so we should see speedily in our days, we should see the ability to live together, to embrace life, to value life, to share the values of Avraham Avinu with the wider world, with the love of life, with everything that we represent. And we can, in this way, really understand and have confidence in our role as bringing light unto the world. And with God's help, everyone should be safe, and we should really convey this message with absolute clarity as we are battling the forces of evil. Wherever we are all frontline soldiers in one way or another. And if we're not on the actual battlefield, it is our prayers and our deeds and our mitzvot. Those are what we can really requisition and use, so that, please God, Hashem should grant Yisrael victory, and we should be able to continue the mission that is so beautifully expressed in this week's Sedra at the bookends of the lives of Sarah Imeinu and Avraham Avinu. Thank you very much for listening, and wishing everybody Shabbat Shalom.